Hello, this is Pam. Today we're going to be discussing the best diet for multiple sclerosis. We are starting a new year. This is a new beginning. What do you want 2025 to look like for you? What are your goals? Do you want a completely different life as far as if you're dealing with chronic disease like multiple sclerosis or other diseases? Well, if that is the case, I'm going to share with you the Live Disease-Free diet, which is an amazing diet that really helps you to set the stage for recovery. It is really the foundational step for recovery. If we haven't met, my name is Pam Bartha, and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease-Free. Over 35 years ago, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and by the grace of God and a lot of work, research, diligence on my part, I learned early on that what I was dealing with was a parasitic infestation. And so over the years, we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about the types of parasites that cause multiple sclerosis and other types of chronic diseases. We've learned how better to treat them. We've also learned and really perfected a diet. We call it the Live Disease-Free diet. And this diet is super important because it really gives people a lot of symptom improvement early on. Today, I'm going to be talking about the guidelines of the Live Disease-Free diet, also different meal ideas, and I'm going to share some real life case reports from people that just sent in updates just this last week so that you can see the profound impact this diet can have when we're dealing with chronic disease. When we have chronic disease, we're dealing with a parasitic infestation. I've shared lots and lots of research on this. This is a huge field that's growing in science, really understanding how the microbes that live in us in health and in sickness, how they affect our health. They're a huge part of how our health is, and they're really largely ignored by our standard of care. Also wanted to mention that parasites are any microbes that live inside of us and cause us harm. That would include worms, yes, disgusting worms, bacteria, protozoa, fungi. Those are all different classes of parasites. So each one of them can cause us harm. So bacteria can be a parasite also. They rob nutrition from us. They produce a lot of poisons. They cause our immune system to fight them. Our immune system is battling them when we're dealing with inflammation. Inflammation is the war when our immune system is fighting them. And so they cause a lot of harm for us. They cause disease, especially when they're heavily populated in our body. So when we want to recover from these infections, I wish there was a magic cure, but there isn't a magic cure. The way that we recover from a parasitic infestation is we don't have good tests. Our healthcare professionals really don't have a lot of experience in recognizing or treating parasites. So we have to use strategy, our own strategy. And the first step, which we're talking about today, is the Live Disease-Free diet. And that diet is really going low carb. Science teaches us that all of these various different types of parasites, they thrive on carbohydrates and simple sugars. And so as we decrease the carbs and simple sugars in our diet, we are decreasing the food to the parasites that are making us sick. And when we do that, we notice a lot of symptom improvements. The inflammation is going down. So less food to the parasites, they're less active, they're producing less poisons. Our immune system doesn't have to battle them as strongly. And then we start to notice a lot of symptom improvements. And I'm going to share some of those with you right now because that is what this is all about. This is not about Pam invented a new diet. This is about tons and tons of research that I've done over the years, really watching what different hero doctors, different practitioners, what they found with helping people recover from various chronic diseases. And this is true for multiple sclerosis, for Parkinson's, for ALS, for cancer, for any autoimmune disease. Always parasites are involved, always. And all of them, their favorite preferred source of energy is carbohydrates and simple sugars. So these are just a few reports of our students. We have a live Q&A call every Tuesday night. That would have been last night. And so on those calls, the students are asking lots of questions. They're following the Live Disease-Free plan. They're getting ready to treat. Some of them are treating. So what I'm going to share with you are just people that are getting ready to treat the parasites that are causing their disease. And so with these students, you'll notice that these symptom improvements are incredibly profound, like huge. I would say bigger than a lot of drugs benefits for the MS or any other disease-modifying immunosuppressive drug. So the first student shared less pain, more energy, and the brain fog gone. That's really huge because people can't function when they have terrible brain fog or when they're suffering with debilitating pain and no energy, right? Debilitating fatigue also. The second student shared, I haven't woken up with leg cramps for 2 days now in a row. And he said that is a very big deal. And his balance is coming back also, and his legs feel lighter. So this is all just getting ready to treat. This is following the diet by going low carb. We're going to go into all the guidelines. We're going to give you meal ideas. Make sure to ask lots of questions. I'm doing this for you because all of these guidelines are free. You can take this information and you can start to have the symptom improvements that I'm sharing with you from our students. All right, so this is nothing you have to pay for. They're on our website, livediseasefree.com. Under research, you'll find the Live Disease-Free diet guidelines. You'll find a cheat sheet you can put in your kitchen. But again, the first student noticed that his pain has decreased significantly, more energy, brain fog gone. Second student, no leg cramps for 2 days. That's a big deal. Balance coming back, legs feeling lighter. And also his cousin noticed that he was not slurring his words as much. So his speech had improved just from following this diet. The next student shared, my joints continue to have little to no inflammation. So a lot of us that have arthritic conditions, we have terrible joint pain, stiffness, and so no inflammation in her joints, virtually none, gone from the diet, not treating yet. And then also frequency of urination continues to be about half of what it was before I started the diet. So that is huge too. That's one of the first symptoms we notice that improves by going low carb, is that people are able to go through the night not waking up to go to the bathroom. So their urgency, their bladder urgency improves significantly. That's really important because then they can sleep better. They don't have to get up as often. They're not waking up, having a hard time falling asleep. They're sleeping more. And then with that, they notice they have significant improvements from the sleep and also just less bladder urgency. And her sleep is good now. And then also she said that about December the 17th, the eczema that she had on her hands started going away. It was really bad. It was a bad case with patches, bumps, rashes, and discolored skin. And she said, I feel like it might be going away for good. That would be amazing because she's had that for 30 years. So we might have MS, but we could have all of these other, or a different chronic disease, but we can have all of these other issues like eczema, for example, it's painful, right? It's a terrible burning rash that sometimes can bleed. So that is going away, and 30 years of trying to deal with it, dozens of consultants and treatments, nothing worked until starting to implement the diet, the Live Disease-Free diet. So this next student is a young lady who has a neurological disease. It is not multiple sclerosis. She has started doing the oxygen enemas that I talk about also, but she's doing the diet, supporting the body, and just hasn't really started treating yet. So I just did some troubleshooting with her, helping her to really focus on getting the carbs lower. That's the biggest factor. That's why the diet works. And she was in pretty rough shape before Christmas. But her speech, her energy, and her walking have all improved just, I would say, in 3 weeks. That is huge. That's not medication. That's just changing diet, but she did do some of the oxygen enemas, and she is starting to pass a few of the parasites out of her large intestine. The next student, just following the diet, she said, I had a wonderful Christmas. I stayed strong with a Live Disease-Free diet, which gave me energy and a positive mood to keep up with all the gatherings, the shoppings, and even cooking things that I did not eat. So a lot of us, like we're recovering, we still want to cook things that our loved ones want. I mean, healthier versions, hopefully. But she didn't eat any of that. And she had the energy to do all of the fun things that she wanted to do. She said, I have had numerous improvements. I no longer have tremors, even on busy days. My energy level is much better. I'm no longer anxious. I don't feel overwhelmed anymore. I have peace and joy that I thought I lost in my older age. I wake up in the morning much easier. In the morning, I don't feel like I was hit by a truck. I can get out of bed without pain. I don't have muscle twitches anymore. I'm working out every other day, no matter how small the workout. It feels great and has not resulted in more muscle cramps or spasms like in the past would have happened for her. So these are just a few of the amazing successes that I get every single week. And there are other successes of people that are using the parasite drugs and using the treatments, going more deeply into the program, but we're just focusing today on the first part, which is the diet. So again, you can find the Live Disease-Free Diet Guidelines on our website, livediseasefree.com, livediseasefree.com. In the main menu along the top, you would find research, click on that, and then you will see the Live Disease-Free Diet Guidelines. There you'll see a 3-minute video where I talk about all the guidelines. Then you'll also see a PDF that you can download, print off. There are naturopaths that are handing this out to their patients, other healthcare professionals too. So in different parts of the world, I don't even know, I just hear from people, like one of their patients who they got the cheat sheet from, they looked up my program and they joined the program and then they recovered. One of them is Morella, and she is in Australia. I believe it's Australia, New Zealand, or Australia. She started a podcast and she's recovered from MS. It was her naturopath that gave her the cheat sheet. So I am so happy and I'm so honored this is getting out. Again, it's nothing to do with me. It has to do with low carbohydrate helps the parasites to be less active. Inflammation goes down. It's a natural way to promote immune modulation. It is essential to recover from a parasitic infestation. The parasite drugs are not a magic cure. The herbs are not a magic cure. The oxygen therapies are not a magic cure. But when you add all of them together, plus you follow a low-carb eating plan like the Live Disease-Free diet, and you support the body, making sure you're sleeping well, having daily bowel movements, that is when miracles happen. That is when the parasites really start to leave the body. So this is truly foundational. This diet is the foundation of your recovery. And I really hope and pray that you will believe me and give it a try for 2 weeks. It will change your life. But you have to go all in. If you just kind of like, well, this day I will, tomorrow I won't. The parasites, they don't need a lot of food every day, 3 times a day. They are very, very happy in our body. They exist inside of us. They live on our normal blood sugar levels. They don't want to leave. So you have to decrease their food so they're not as active, they're not as happy. And then, of course, we treat them. That is the only way to recover. They're not going to leave your body without treating them. So again, the guidelines, you will find that on livediseasefree.com. It's a really beautiful little PDF that you can print off and use. And share it with other people, share it with practitioners. Just say, hey, this is what I found and it's really helped me. This is how we're going to change healthcare system. It isn't going to come from the top down. It's going to come from people like you and I that recover, that share this information with others. You can see, like if you have cancer, do a Google search and you'll see that there are TED Talks about how low carb is so helpful for people that have cancer. For any type of, whatever your disease condition is, do some searching and you'll see that low carb is really, really helpful. This is the reason why it's so helpful. All right, so I'm going to go over the guidelines really quickly with you. Again, I'm going over to my website and I pulled up the Live Disease-Free cheat sheet. I'm going to the second page of it where it says the Live Disease-Free Eating Guidelines. So this diet is super nutritious. It is very satisfying. If you don't want to lose weight, you have to make sure you eat enough. It's really easy to lose weight. We're not interested in losing weight, but if you want to lose weight, it's just a bonus. And if you don't want to lose weight, you have to have enough calories to maintain your weight. As we decrease the calories from carbohydrates, we increase the calories from healthy fats. Healthy fats are loaded with calories. They're higher in calories than carbohydrates. And so we are increasing the healthy fats. So we might have 4+ tablespoons of healthy fat with a meal. And there are certain fats that are healthy and certain ones that are not. So extra virgin olive oil and butter or ghee, and we can have coconut oil. Again, extra virgin, organic is always the best. You can also get animal fat, preferably from like a grass-fed beef. You can get that from butchers, but it can be saturated fat. It can be healthy oils. A lot of the other seed oils are not healthy. They're pro-inflammatory, but the extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, if you're heating things, those would be the different types of fats that would be good. So you just have to add enough. You can't miss a meal, 3 meals a day, 2 snacks, so you're eating regularly, you're having a lot of nutrition, but keeping in mind that when we have a lot of parasites in the intestines, we're not digesting our food well, we're not absorbing our food well, and that is a big reason why we're not having complex carbohydrates, because we don't digest them well, and then they become food for the parasites inside of our intestines. We don't want to feed them, right? They will still survive on the blood sugar that we have, our normal blood sugar levels. So our target is to work up towards 9 to 13 servings of vegetables per day. And so that equals about 3 platefuls. So breakfast, lunch, and supper. And we're having the vegetables that are lower in carbs. So we're not having peas or corn or any of the potatoes or sweet potatoes. We're having things that are lower carbs. So things like broccoli, cauliflower, so the cruciferous vegetables, string beans, the green and yellow string beans are fine, the cucumber, celery, things like carrots and beets and avocados, tomatoes. Those would be like a garnish on a very large salad. We would not have a whole serving of tomatoes or carrots or beets. That would be just like a sprinkle, like a garnish, a little bit of flavor, a little bit of interest. They're higher in carbohydrates. So again, working up to 9 to 13 servings of low carbohydrate vegetables. We're having moderate amounts of animal protein. So for a woman, usually around 3 to 4 ounces of animal protein with each meal. It's very important to have animal protein, or else you're not getting enough amino acids. We want to maintain our muscle mass. For men, we might have a little bit more animal protein, maybe 4 to 5 to 6 ounces, whatever makes you feel like you're satisfied. But if you have a 10-ounce steak, what'll happen is it'll make your blood sugar go up, and that will feed the parasites. So if you eat too much animal protein with a meal, you might feel worse because you are feeding the parasites. So we've noticed that in our students. So just making sure we're having moderate amounts of animal protein 3 times a day with lots of low-carb vegetables and enough healthy fats to maintain our weight. That's the gist of it. If we have inflammatory bowel disease, we don't tolerate some vegetables, possibly. So it's very important to listen to your body. And if you need to cook your vegetables, you can't eat raw. It's absolutely fine to steam, oven roast, stir fry, or saute the vegetables that agree with you. All right, so listen to your body. Don't be eating raw if you're having a lot of diarrhea, because it could make it worse. So listen to your body. You know your body best. Our target is to get at least down to 50 total grams of carbs per day. The sweet spot seems to be around 30 to 40, like closer to 30 total grams of carbs per day. We can measure that on a free app on your phone. It's called the Chronometer, Chrono meter, Chronometer. And so you can download it for free. You don't have to measure your carbs every day, but you might want to do that for a day or two when you're not as busy. Maybe you're at home, it's not a work day, or you don't have appointments. Then just plug in what you're eating, but make sure to set it so that it's measuring total grams of carbs, not net grams of carbs. You want to measure total, which includes fiber, sugar, starch, carbohydrate, everything. Total grams of carbs you're measuring. And if you notice that you're getting closer to the 30, this is where you're going to report back to me like, oh my gosh, Pam, you're right. Like, I cannot believe. We're talking about improvements in spasticity, in balance, in less pain, like it's tremors. Like, these are huge symptom improvements that our students are reporting, all the new students, as they are implementing well. If we don't implement, we won't notice it. Again, if you don't want to lose weight, it's all about making sure you have enough calories. And bear in mind, when you have a parasitic infestation, some of us, like, we're having muscle wastage, even without being on this diet. Like, we've lost a lot of weight. The parasites, again, they cause a lot of inflammation in our digestive tract, so we're not digesting or absorbing our nutrition. They're freeloaders. They're eating a lot of our nutrition. And it is so shocking how many parasites we can have. So we can't see the bacteria. We cannot see the protozoa or the fungi. Well, you can see fungal symptoms a little easier, but not really in your stool. But boy, the worms that people are passing, like, we have one student just more recently that shared, she's a healthcare professional in another country, and she has documented that she passed 200 worms that were visible to her. How can we still be alive when we have 200 worms inside of us? She's about 95% better. She had a neurological demyelinating disease, not MS, but a different one. And she's like tap dancing right now. She's going to go back to work in February. So that's it. She's still treating, but she's that far along. So this is why the diet is so important, because it really helps to decrease that inflammation in your gut where the bulk of the parasites are living, right? And then you start to feel better, but then your gut can start to heal. And do you always have to live on a low carb diet forever? No. If you give yourself enough time to treat the parasites well enough to recover, you will be able to increase the carbs. The carbs, if they're healthy carbs like avocados or some fruit, complex carbs like maybe some, rice, organic, etc., they're not bad for you. Sweet potato, but it's when you are loaded with parasites, it will make you sicker. It will feed the parasites and make you have a lot more symptoms. So choose vegetables and animal protein in as close to their natural state as possible. So when you're starting this diet, try to avoid things like ham and sausage and bacon, because they're notorious for having honey or sugar added, or in sausages, fillers added that may not always be on the ingredient list, and you may find it's like, oh, this isn't working for me. So just have animal protein. So you can make your own sausages. You can get ground chicken, turkey, beef, pork. You can add whatever spices. Just get comfortable with starting to use recipes. And there's tons of recipes. I actually spend a lot of my time when I'm looking for new recipes. I just go on my phone and I just pull up like what I'm looking for, like best taco or chicken rub recipe. Pull that up, look for a lot of good reviews, make sure that it's like I put healthy in very often, or you could put keto in, just make sure it doesn't have dairy. But you'll notice that you'll find different recipes that have many 5 out of 5. It could be several hundred 5 out of 5 ratings. You can just look at that recipe and you can make some minor adjustments to it. Just make, okay, we can't have that, take that out or that out. And they still taste absolutely amazing. So use those recipes, but just make sure that you work with real chicken. Like, we just buy the whole chickens because they're a lot cheaper also. And just cut them up, or if you just use chicken breast, but nothing that's soaked in a brine, just plain meat, vegetables in their natural state. Some of us are really disabled, so we can't do a lot of meal prep. Maybe try to find somebody who can come in for a couple of hours, a couple times a week and do batch cooking for you. But you can also buy vegetables that are cut up. Just make sure they look healthy, that they're not all brown or slimy. Slimy means bacteria on them, especially those tubs of lettuce or different types of greens that could have pieces of lettuce that are black and slimy. You don't want to eat that because that is bringing more infection into your body. So make sure to avoid that. But keeping your food really simple, like keeping it really simple at the start, really helps you to know what's working and what isn't working. When you're having fruit, we have a very small serving of lower sugar fruit first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. The reason being is that when you eat something that's higher in sugar, like fruit, with protein or with the other vegetables, it's not going to digest as well, and then it could end up down in your in your intestines and be more food for the parasites. So what you want to do is eat your small serving of fruit, which would be like a very small amount of berries, like a quarter cup, an eighth of a cup. It's more like a taste, right? Half a green apple or a very small kiwi, something like that. Chew it really well so you're digesting it in your mouth, and then enjoy it. But we don't have any more. And then we wait for at least half an hour before breakfast. That way the fruit is digested a lot better, and it's not going to be fermented in your intestines by the parasites that are living there. Any food that you're allergic to or you're sensitive to, just make sure to avoid it. So everybody is different and everybody can have different food sensitivities. Listen to your body, very important. And again, if you need to cook your food, that's absolutely fine. Nuts and seeds are harder to digest. And so that's why they're also higher in carbs. And that's why it's really important not to eat a lot of nuts and seeds, because they'll make you feel horrible if you have parasites, because it'll really feed the parasites. So a very small handful, and handful doesn't really mean anything, because a man could have a really big hand and a woman might have a smaller hand if you're petite. So it would be like a very small, a quarter cup, an eighth of a cup would be better, once a day, twice a day, possibly nothing after supper though, because it's getting to be bedtime and your digestion slows down after when you go to sleep. So just be really careful with nuts and seeds and only eat the ones that are listed on the cheat sheet. All right, that's really important. So people that maybe they're following the diet, but they just want to have more symptom improvements, they feel they haven't had enough, they might skip the fruit. They might skip all the nuts and seeds, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so amazing. One thing also that I wanted to mention is that bone broth is so popular right now, but they actually use broth to grow different types of infections in laboratories. And just one thing that I know too is that Borrelia, which is the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, which is really involved in a lot of different neurological diseases, that bacteria really loves collagen, which is in bone broth. So bone broth is super healthy, but if you have parasites in you that love bone broth and all the nutrients that are in bone broth, that's going to make you feel worse. So there are people that I've worked with that they think, oh, I'm so well on my way. I'm almost symptom free and I'm running again. And I'm making homemade organic bone broth because it's so healthy. And then their symptoms start coming a little stronger, very subtly, but coming back. And it's like, oh my gosh, number one, I have more work to do. But number two, the bone broth feeds those parasites. So that's why if you're having occasional homemade soup, and soup is not a meal, it is a side dish. But if you're having a bowl of homemade soup, but you're really following the diet otherwise, and you're really having a lot of symptom improvements, it's fine to have that soup. But if you are finding that you're having soup regularly or bone broth, please don't use collagen either, because that is going to feed the problem, especially if you have chronic diseases, neurological diseases, possible Lyme infections. Avoid that supplement. But again, this is something that you have to test, and it's something that a lot of our students will just say, I'm not having any soup for a while. Keeping it simple is so important, because if you just keep it simple, you can still enjoy the food. You can still have all of the different fresh herbs. You can have garlic, ginger, cilantro, oregano, rosemary, thyme. There are so many different herbs, ginger. Like, use those to give you a lot of flavor, and the fat gives all the meat and the vegetables a lot of flavor. So it is a very tasty meal. It takes a little bit of like thinking ahead, especially when you're not in the rhythm of it yet. So sitting down one day and just going through and just seeing, I used to look to see what is on special in the flyers, and I would take the recipes that we like and say, okay, well, chicken breasts are on special this week. I'll make this and this dish with it. And there's this roast. But batch cook. Like, cook what we do, my husband and I, and what we did when I was, working as a teacher, coaching people on weekends and evenings, had 3 children at home. We would cook like 3 or 4 bigger meals, and then we would have leftovers for lunches, for an extra supper. So like tonight, I don't have to cook anything, or tomorrow night, because I did a roast one night. And I actually cut up some of the roast, put it on my salad today. I had a little bit of leftover asparagus, chop that up, put that on my salad too. So it gives a whole different flavor, right? It's really nice. And then added I love like extra virgin olive oil and fresh lemon or fresh lime. That is the salad dressing I always use. I don't really like other salad dressings. I really love the taste of fresh lemon or fresh lime. So being prepared, batch cooking can save you a ton of time. So this way of eating is like really quick and easy, which is awesome. So the other night, what I did is I just put a roast in the oven, cooked that a little bit earlier, then just did some Brussels sprouts in the oven and some asparagus. And then if you need a little bit of extra, you're still a little hungry because you don't eat too many Brussels sprouts because they're a little higher in carbs, so maybe just a serving of like half a cup or so, then you can have some more greens. But incorporate leafy greens throughout the day. Not always the same one. Don't eat a lot of spinach because it can be harder on the thyroid with the oxalic acid. Just switch up the vegetables, switch up the greens so you're getting a variety of nutrients. So there's arugula, there's green leaf, there's red leaf lettuce, we love romaine. We use a lot of romaine lettuce. There's spinach, there's kale, baby kale. Just look, you'll find all kinds of different leafy greens that you can switch out. We always make a really big salad that we have in the fridge, and that'll last us for a couple of 3 days. So we're not making salad every day. And again, you can just, by having roast beef and some leftover cold asparagus cut up in small pieces, that's a whole different flavor than the next day where maybe I have some broccoli, raw broccoli or cauliflower to throw on it, or maybe half an avocado. Be really careful with avocados. Although they are higher in fat, they're also higher in carbohydrates. So 2 slices of avocado on a large salad would be enough, not even a half an avocado. That sometimes an avocado or even a half an avocado can be half or more of your carbohydrate intake for the whole day, and that would be awful because you want to eat a lot of other food. So it is quite challenging to keep the carbs low enough, but you can get into a habit where into a rhythm, and you'll find that this way of eating is super fresh. It gives you a lot of energy. It gives you a lot of mental clarity. It really decreases inflammation in your body. And again, that is the first step for recovery, because that will allow you to treat more aggressively, to treat these parasites with combinations of treatments. You'll tolerate them a lot better. The parasites will come out of you a lot easier. So we avoid all sugars. We're not having even the alcohol sugars. We're not having stevia, because if you have things that taste sweet on your tongue, you are perpetuating your cravings. And with these parasites, we usually have serious sugar cravings. So we want to get rid of our sweet tooth. We want to be free, and it is really freedom. I have gone through so many holidays with my family. We just finished Christmas, and I really don't care. And it's really interesting that a lot of us are having less and less desserts. Like when you go out with friends and even to their places, a lot of times, especially with our family, we just don't even have desserts for the rest of the family. I never do. I really don't want that. I don't want that feeling right? And it doesn't taste that good. Like a lot of the desserts that my family would eat over the holidays, it's like and that's where your taste buds will change. When you follow this diet for a while, your taste buds will change. You will crave different foods. You will love eating this way. You'll feel satisfied. It tastes good to you. I call it freedom. You don't have to worry about the scale anymore. You don't have the ups and downs of the weight, the ups and downs of the energy, the crashes. You just feel stable. So a big part of that too is having protein and fat with every meal, every few hours, right? And that's when we're starting this diet. If you've been eating a lot of carbs over the holidays, you've been binging, you feel terrible, maybe put a few pounds on, then it's very important when you start this diet to be eating regularly, because that will help keep your blood sugar level steady. And so that way you will be able to get past the cravings and you won't get the lows of energy when you're, the low blood sugar type things, which are caused by a lot of times by the parasites also. So avoid all sweeteners. Again, we talked about the fruit, fresh lemon or fresh lime on salads is fine. You can look at the guideline. I'm not going to repeat it again. As far as meat, virtually all meat is fine, just in its natural state. If you are vegan, I have found it really difficult to recover from, not me personally, but people that I've tried to work with. I don't work with vegans. It's not that I have no issue with that diet if that's what people choose. Sometimes it's for personal reasons. That's absolutely fine. But I just don't want to try to help somebody and I can't. And I have just found that when you're only eating plant, then and you decrease you get all the grains out, you're not going to get all of the essential amino acids, and then you just can lose a ton of weight and you can lose a bunch of muscle. So even if you could, for people that are vegetarian, where they might have some eggs, they might have certain seafood, or maybe possibly a little bit of chicken, most of the Live Disease-Free diet is vegetables. Like your plate is brimming with vegetables, and you're just having moderate amounts of animal protein to make sure to keep your muscle mass on. Really important to include animal protein, 0 grains. That includes flax. So like if you're constipated and you're using flaxseed, in the recovery, we wouldn't have flaxseed, chia seed, none of those seeds, because if you soak chia seeds, you know how it becomes like a gelatin type. And same thing with flax, that is carbohydrate. So we don't want that, because that is going to be more food for the parasites. It's these small things that make all the difference. This is where people can notice these huge neurological improvements versus somebody who's half doing the diet and going, well, it doesn't really work for me. It's because you haven't implemented it 100%. Alcohol, no alcohol. Alcohol is a mycotoxin. It is something that your liver is working hard to break down. And right now, if you're dealing with chronic disease, the liver is taxed. A lot of times the parasites do live in the liver gallbladder meridian also. So sometimes people will notice their liver enzymes are elevated because the parasites are there. Also, some people have had their gallbladder removed, right? And that's because parasites got into that area too. And unfortunately, our doctors don't know that if they just treated the parasites, the person could keep their gallbladder. It's really unfortunate. As far as fermented foods, we would only have things like raw sauerkraut. We would avoid all of the yogurts, anything that's dairy-based, because it's been known for many years that when you're dealing with these infections, we don't tolerate dairy and we don't tolerate gluten. So we would definitely avoid kefirs and yogurts made out of dairy, even goat. I would just avoid all. Remember, keeping things simple at the start. Test me on this. I promise you, if you really keep it simple, like different animal protein in its natural state, you can barbecue it, you can fry it, you can put it in the oven, you can have it any which way with herbs and butter, but just don't have it contaminated with sugar. Like bacon, for example. Bacon usually has sugar added to it. And if you go to a local butcher, you have to really be careful, because sometimes it's not listed, and sometimes the people that work there, they don't know. Very important. So raw sauerkraut seems to be something that people tolerate really well. If you can make your own homemade raw sauerkraut, that is the most health promoting food you can eat, because when it's homemade and it's a wild ferment where you're taking the cabbage and you're fermenting it and you're allowing the diversity of the microbes that live on the cabbage and the other vegetables to multiply, that's very different than what you would buy in a store like Costco, where they have raw sauerkraut, which is still good, but that would have had a culture added to it. It's usually not a wild brine because of health issues. They want to control the fermentation process to make sure they don't get batches that are contaminated. But when you make your own, you can do the wild ferment and then you get diversity, and that is truly the best way to repopulate the good guys in your gut. So as we're treating, yes, whether using herbs, whether using the oxygen therapies or the parasite drugs, that could impact your health promoting microbes for sure, but you have to treat them or else they literally take our life from us. So as we are treating them, then it's kind of like we'll never totally sterilize our body, but we're decreasing the population of them enough so that we don't have symptoms and we are building back the health promoting microbes. You could use probiotics like a pill or a capsule from the health food store or from online that does not contain prebiotics, because if you have a lot of parasites and you have supplements that have prebiotics, that will feed the parasites and your symptoms will feel worse too. That's what we've noticed with our students. So, but we haven't had a lot of noticeable symptom improvement reports from our students that use the supplements for probiotics, because those are transient, meaning they've never grown in a human digestive tract. They're grown in a lab by a pharmaceutical company. They might give you some minor symptom improvement as they're passing through your digestive tract, but it doesn't mean that they're going to inhabit the gut. But the raw sauerkraut is life-changing. It's really awesome. Start small though. Start with like half a teaspoon, work your way up very slowly. And you could have, it's crazy because I've never been a pickle person. I don't like vinegars that much either. But having like raw sauerkraut, especially the homemade, like first thing in the morning with a big plate full of greens with a couple of eggs, I think tastes absolutely amazing. So, but you can have it at any time. But if you are infested with parasites, just increase that slowly. We want to make sure that you are not running into any problems, especially when you have a lot of parasites. As far as vinegars, just apple cider vinegar when you're in the recovery phase, like working at getting ready to treat the parasites and treating. You can have the other vinegars when you're well, absolutely. But just while you're recovering, avoid those. Beverages, filtered water, drink lots of water. There's also really beautiful, naturally caffeine-free. So not decaffeinated, but naturally caffeine-free. So the caffeine will actually stimulate the parasites and make them more active. So we don't want any caffeine when we are getting ready to treat or we're treating the parasites. We want to make them quiet as possible as we are treating them. So this is how like people are recovering. And if you haven't seen some of their stories, make sure to go to our playlist on Live Disease Free on YouTube, where you'll see a lot of different successes from our students, or on our website, livediseasefree.com. And there you can actually hear them sharing their journey of recovering and where their life is now. And it's truly amazing. I was actually texting back and forth with one of my previous students from many years ago. She is a nurse in Canada, and she had multiple sclerosis and infertility. And she's married, young lady, married to a beautiful husband. They built a home. They wanted to have children, but she had multiple sclerosis. And so she followed the plan. She not only recovered from MS, but she got pregnant. And now she has 3 little girls, and she is still multiple sclerosis free. She also opened a wellness clinic, so she's gone out of the hospital because through all of what happened in the last few years, she didn't get the you-know-what, so she couldn't continue working in the hospital. So she left the hospital, she started her own wellness clinic, and I'm just so thrilled. And she was in tears again, just so thankful that that she took the program years ago, it completely changes your life, because when you really understand what made you sick, when you really understand, like that one lady who's passed 200 worms, it's like, do you think she's going to be an amazing healthcare professional now? She's an acupuncturist and Chinese medicine doctor. Do you think that she understands her patients a little bit better now that she has recovered from all of this? It's crazy, like, yes. And so this is where we really need to use this information ourselves, but share it with others that are looking for help, and to share this with our healthcare professionals. Our blog post is so rich. Go through like pages and pages of topics. Like I had one gentleman I was speaking with today, and he's like, he has been going to every doctor. He's been losing tons of weight, losing muscle mass. He spent $10,000 in Canada at a private clinic, $10,000 like down at the Mayo Clinic, just testing. Nobody can help him. Nobody knows what it is. And then he watched my videos and he's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. Like this. And so go through that. That is hours and hours of research for you that I have done. And if you do need support, I'm here for you. We do have the Live Disease-Free plan, because like that gentleman today, he's in a country where his doctors will not help him, right? And even in the US, the doctors don't know what to do with them. So we have a plan. We have a proven plan. You can look at the successes of our students. You can watch my masterclass training, which tells you all the steps in this plan so that you understand what you'll need to do. If you think you might want to work with me, then you can fill out the form, and then you can watch the coach-a-thon, which really goes into more depth about the academy, like how we get ready to treat, how we recover. And then you'll have really good questions. You can meet with me and go over just to get all your questions answered, just to make sure it's a good fit for you. And I would love to support you. We had a ton of people joining before Christmas, which was so amazing because they were so smart. They joined before Christmas. They went through the holidays without binging, and they're off and running and not suffering. If you're at that place where you're like, Pam, I've been watching your videos. I totally believe I'm dealing with parasites. I totally believe that this is what's causing the symptoms I have, the disease I have, but I don't have a practitioner that can help me that has experience in treating parasites. I don't know how to do this. Make sure to watch my masterclass training. You'll see a link to it beside this video. And in that masterclass training, I will share with you all the steps we take to recover. I'm going to share especially different types of infections that are really common. Also, we have and then at the end of that, I should say that if you're like, okay, this is what I want to do, then make sure to fill out that form and then look for an email from us. And then you can watch the coach-a-thon, which really goes into more depth of the the steps that we take to recover. And then you can either join then, or you can book a time to chat with me. But either way, I'm going to chat with you when we get started, because I always love to have an intro call with all my new students to make sure they're off to a strong start. And if you enjoy what I share, all the work I put behind this, if you want to help us to bring change, please like this video and share it with different groups, with different people that you might be associated with that have disease, with practitioners. And also, so like it and share it and subscribe to our Live Disease-Free channel. And those videos that are on there, they are life-changing if you implement it. So my request from you is that give this diet a try. Give it 2 weeks. Go to livediseasefree.com, go under research, get the guidelines, watch my videos on what we eat, and then give it an honest try for 2 weeks and then report back to me so that I know that you actually followed through. And I am super excited to hear your report. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you next week. Take care and bye-bye for now.